Should I switch on? Hello. Namaste, my pranams to everyone here. It's an honor to share my thoughts on the future vision of Ayurveda during the Dhara event. I'll get into the topic as there's very little time. So, as you can see, the title of my talk today is Yuganurupa Ayurveda, Breaking the Molds of the Past and Developing the Core of Ayurveda. And the key message that I would like to convey is that Ayurveda has been reinventing itself throughout the course of its evolutionary history. It has had its periods of growth, stagnation, stability, and in this cycle it faced a very difficult period during the colonial time. And this is a pending task in the evolutionary history of Ayurveda. Ayurveda has not been able to completely address the demands of changing time and space, and that is what I would like to outline as a vision. So the context is exactly this. It's Ayurveda is a health tradition with a remarkable continuity, and it's also a dynamic tradition, always assimilating and adapting, not only from within our country, but also, exchanging knowledge, globally. So around the time of colonial era, also Ayurveda was one of the world's most advanced healthcare systems. But weakened by invasions and hostile policies imposed by colonial rule, Ayurveda has struggled to modernize and adapt to the needs of the time. And I think Ayurveda survived the post-colonial period due to nationalist sentiments, but the whole thing has been, when you look at modernization, it has come to mean reinventing Ayurveda in the image of modern medicine. This is the pressure in which Ayurveda is working today, reinventing itself in the image of modern medicine, validating itself or forced to validate itself using the measuring rods of contemporary science. And this is just an overview. I mean, here you can see how Ayurveda was geographically, spread out throughout the country, and chronogeographically is, a very dynamic tradition reaching out to all cultures and civilizations of the world. Oh, sorry. Oh, maybe sorry. Yeah, I'm very sorry about the. Yeah. So the next point is outline of the future vision for Ayurveda, and to summarize, considering the limited time, there's so many details I'd like to get into, but I want to give an overview. There are three aspects, I think, to the modernization of Ayurveda. One is reinventing itself on the basis of its own epistemological and ontological framework, integrating with the paradigm of other traditional medicines, including the folk system. When we talk about integration, we are only talking about integration with modern medicine. But we must realize that, other traditional systems of knowledge, folk healing, all these are very rich. They have also contributed to the development of Ayurveda as a formal system. And then we have, integration with the modern medical paradigm. And these first two steps are where we have not really given enough attention to. So my focus is more on, I'm just going to give a very brief overview of what we can do in the other two areas, but I'd like to focus clearly on the Ayurvedic vision of how it should keep reinventing itself and modernizing itself within its own framework. So that is there. The title is inspired by Vagbhada's statement, Yuganurupa Sandarbho Vibhagena Karishyate. And if you study the traditions, it's very clear where, at what point of time we need to readapt and, present Ayurveda in an updated way. So we need to. And what does this mean? One, Pratisamskarana. This is a very important aspect. The texts have to be, updated. I mean, today we have come to think that we cannot change any of these textbooks. But that idea should be completely relooked into. And even textbooks like Charaka, Sushruta, I mean, they have reached us after so many editions and revisions, and that process has to continue. So it said Samskarta Kuride Tantram Puranam Cha Punarnavam. An old treatise becomes new again through this process of Samskarana. And the third thing, which is very important, which needs to be brought into our educational system, is Agama Alochana. Yesterday, during a meeting, a PG student asked me if my data is not supporting the null hypothesis, but maybe I should still accept the alternate hypothesis because we cannot disprove Ayurveda. I mean, that idea has to go. The textbooks very clearly say that you can critically look into the texts. There is a provision for akshepa, trying to disprove, and only when you get a samadhana or a proper answer, you have to accept it. So that is part of this process of reinvention. Pariksha, personal verification. This is very much emphasized in Charaka Samhita, that by your own pratyaksha and anumana, you have to verify what is written in the text. That is called vijnanam, and it's not necessary to take everything in the face value. Anuktartha grahana. This is a very, very important point that Charaka says, that you have to go beyond what is mentioned in the text. This opens up a whole, in fact, the text itself says that the purpose of the text is to stimulate the student to find knowledge that is not there in the text at all. And the Charaka Samhita clearly says, if you follow blindly what I say, you're going to fail. And then there is another important aspect in the updation. The text very clearly say there are two aspects, tarkya and drishya. Tarkya is debatable areas, and then what is observed and verified. Even anatomy, Charaka says, is tarkyam, and that there is scope for revision. So many areas are there in Ayurveda which can be, wherever pratyaksha and anumana is used, because Ayurveda knowledge has been created through two domains. One is atindriya jnana, which is through yoga and other practices, which you cannot verify through modern scientific methods. You need to do those practices in order to reach there. But the other areas, clearly we can verify, re-verify, correct, and update using observational methodologies. Vyavahara and Shastra can be reformulated and updated. We can even create new theories. This kind of thought process should be encouraged in Ayurveda. Sushruta's model of disease is different from Charaka. And even in later period, in books like Siddha Mantra, new theories have come. I mean, that creativity is lacking in the field of Ayurveda today. Acceptance of new knowledge. And Charaka gives a very clear criteria for that. Any Shastra Vada that is in tune with the principles of Ayurveda, Vedarthada Viparita, which has been verified by investigators. Parikshagai Parikshita, Lokanagraha Pravarta, if it is useful, beneficial for the world, tadapi aptopadesh, tadapi aptagama, that can also be accepted. So expanding the pharmacopoeia, this is also very important. Jagatyeva Manaushadam, Ayurveda is using only less than 10% of the total plant wealth, medicinal plants in the country, because Ayurveda insisted that we must study this in great detail. So we need to do that, and I think our pharmacopoeia needs a real updation. Many controversial plants which we cannot identify have to be removed, and we need to make it more functional. And then studying new diseases, Ukta Anukta Vyadhi. I mean, profiling new diseases in an Ayurvedic framework. This is very, very important. What we have today is just some functional understanding. But we need to create a new diagnostic work like that of Madhava Nidana. And so we do find, I mean, there are much more. I just wanted to give a glimpse of how Ayurveda itself gives us a roadmap on how to do this, updation. Now, integrating with the paradigm of other traditional medical systems, co-development of traditional medical systems. I think we need to create a healthy environment, because in India we have medical pluralism but no cooperation even within traditional medical systems. This is extremely important, and I think Ayurveda has learned a lot from Siddha. There has been mutual contributions, even Chinese medicine, and that ecosystem has to be revived. And convergences, divergences, comparative strengths and weaknesses of traditional medical systems. I think many of our health problems could be solved if our traditional systems cooperate before we start jumping to collaborate with modern medicine. That should be the last step. We must first strengthen ourselves from inside. And we should also have integrative treatment guidelines for traditional medicine first, and then think about. So I strongly recommend cooperation between different medical systems, because even during the pandemic and all that, we found that even when traditional medicine was trying to come together, there were, the spirit of competition and insecurity, which is not healthy. And that greatly also, undermined our ability to address the pandemic in a more effective way. If there were more cooperation between traditional practitioners, I'm sure we could have done a better work. So integrating with modern medical paradigm, I think we need to go very deep into the epistemology and the idea of, pluralism of not medical systems but knowledge systems. You cannot talk about medical systems plurals. It will not work unless you really go into, the system of different knowledge systems. When there is a pluralism of knowledge system, there can be pluralism of medical systems. So we need a meta framework. And there are many things we can update where it's observation, like anatomy, and some it should happen at one point and then we need to leave it there. We don't still need to have Sharira Kriya and Sharira Rachana, which is absolutely reconstruction of Ayurvedic understanding of Sharira, copying modern medicine. Ayurveda has Shariram. That's another way of looking at the body, and we don't need to make a hodgepodge of this. I mean, then drug identification, safety, quality control, development of new dosage forms, network pharmacology, these are all areas where, uh, due to time pressure, I'll just very quickly talk about a few points. I want to come to the last one. So one is where, we can use knowledge from modern medicine and, strengthen Ayurveda. Many areas where we can do diagnostic methods, research methodologies. Ayurveda has the principles of research, but sometimes the statistics and some specific study designs are not well elaborated, but you can adapt them from modern medicine. Herb drug interaction studies are very, very important to, promote integrative practices, integrative treatment protocols. But another interesting area what I would like to highlight is hybrid frameworks. Like today, when we talk about microbiome Agni, there is no need to tell that microbiome was already known to Ayurveda. What I strongly have understood is that bring the concept of microbiome, bring the concept of Agni, accept that they are both different ways of looking at this whole function of the gut, and then when you combine the two together, then you get something more powerful. And there are many such areas where these two different frameworks can come together and create something really new. So the roadmap to achieve the future vision, I think we need to do, I look at it this way: for the vertical growth of Ayurveda, we need backward integration with Indian knowledge systems, horizontal integration with other traditional systems, including the folk traditions. And then, we can have the forward integration with modern medicine, and then Ayurveda will grow vertically. So, here updating classical literature, I think we cannot wait for another Vagbada to write a new Samhita. I don't think that is necessary. If a very serious team of experts sit together, we can just curate the existing text and create a version that could become the basis. Students will feel more comfortable when they're dealing, if there are too historical outdated elements in the text, this has an impact on the student's mind, and people are also picking that up and creating all kind of controversies. Okay, so I think my time is almost up. So these are the activities. These are some general, when you look at activities, I'll just highlight a few things here. So one is this textbook. The other is, I think, a lot of, for the creative application of Ayurveda, we need to start studying many new things. The foods that we are using today, the plants that we are using today from an Ayurvedic perspective. This is very, very important. The Ayurvedic approach to identifying drug properties, food properties, it's a chemosensorial approach, which is now also resurfacing in the field of modern pharmacology. So we need to look at this. We'll need to create new books. And yes, so I think that's it. The rest I will just share in my slides. This is the overall theme that we need, in reinventing Ayurveda from its own framework, and then, integrating with other knowledge systems. And the details of what I thought would be the important steps are mentioned here. to conclude, I would like to say that, the slogan for 2047 should be health intelligence, because WHO talked about health for all. Health is not a commodity that can be distributed. Universal health coverage was the next slogan, which is now current. But in the wake of the pandemic, we realized that, even access to healthcare is not a solution. So Ayurveda talks about prajna. This is the vision of creating a healthy society. Prajna can be translated as health intelligence. So health intelligence through Ayurveda, I mean, awakening people in this knowledge, I think, should be the overall vision. And for that, we need to reconstruct the knowledge of Ayurveda. So I was talking about how we can reconstruct the knowledge of Ayurveda so that we can move towards this vision of health intelligence for all, by 2047 may be too ambitious, but eventually. Thank you.